Welcome Lights Out family to another episode of After Dark with KK. Here in Singapore, we have a bus number 975 which services the eerie roads of Choa Chu Kang cemeteries, perhaps the final surviving burial ground and the biggest for our tiny nation. It was stated that the last bus service for 975 would stop at every bus stop, with the entry and exit doors opened although no passenger was inside to board or alight. Such customary practices might draw curiosity and bewilderment to unaware passengers and onlookers, but we all knew what such actions were meant for. Today, in the 30th episode of After Dark, KK will bring some urban legends that linked to public transport, be it bus service, mass transit like railway, or stories from cab drivers from all over East Asia. We start the show with the infamous bus 375 in Beijing, China, from the early 1990s, which was an urban legend that makes skin crawl. This is an urban legend that was raging in China since its inception in 1995. On 14 November that year, the last serviceable bus 375 departed from the starting point of Yuanmingyuan. The bus was driven by a senior driver who knew the route like the back of his hand, and he was accompanied by his younger female colleague, assuming the role of a bus conductor. On this bitterly cold late autumn night, the duo was anticipating an eventless drive to the final stop of Xiangshan Cross Junction. There was no passenger until the bus came to a more boisterous area of Yuanmingyuan South Gate, where 4 passengers would board the bus. Coming on board was a middle-aged couple who looked relieved to be sheltered under the warmth of the bus and away from the cold breeze. They were followed by an elderly lady who looked to be the sharpest with regards to the foursome who had boarded. Finally, a young chap who looked visibly beaten down by a full day of work and could not wait to hit the warm showers of his home. After the passengers had settled on their own seats, which were well available on the empty bus, the bus went on cruise control on a sparsely filled road towards Xiangshan. The journey would be met with intense fogging on the roads, which was probable at this time of the year. It was not before long when the passengers would be jolted, with the driver hitting the emergency brake as he could scantily make out 3 passengers waiting at a rather deserted bus stop. There was an eerie ambience when the 3 boarded the bus, as 2 of them were donning those Qing Dynasty officials' costumes seen in period dramas, and they were followed closely by a lady in all white. As the route of bus 375 would bypass a film studio, the bus driver and his passengers were not entirely freaked out by these people who just boarded the bus. The trio would slowly move to the rear seat and settled at the back with little fuss, and was considerate to the rest of the passengers with their silent movements. The driver and his conductor were now focused on the road, which was all fogged out, and almost all the passengers were catching a wink before they reached their destination.
Hey boy, how dare you steal my wallet?
The ambient cruising of the bus ride had been disrupted by the angry shouting from the elderly lady. She was accusing the young man sitting behind her of stealing her wallet, much to the surprise of the chap who had been knocked out from fatigue. The accuser then pulled the befuddled young man to the front of the bus and demanded to disembark at the next stop, which they duly did.
Aye, what are you doing? You know I was sleeping. How could I ever steal your wallet?
The young man bemoaned the instant they alighted from the bus. The elderly lady did not really confront her supposed thief and was just looking at the bus before it was swallowed by the dense fog as it drove off further. She then turned towards the young man, revealing a wry smile, and changed her demeanor altogether.
I just saved you, young man.
Dave? Aye, critical your medicine.
The young man sounded legitimately pissed off.
You noticed the 3 persons in the weird costume who boarded the bus after us? I know all of you were too tired to pay real attention to them, but they give me a real creepy feeling, and I could not help myself but to see if they are human beings or otherwise. And finally, I got my conclusion. With a quick glimpse of their lower halves, using the thin light of the street, they had no feet. Whether or not if I had seen wrongly, I just had the gut feeling that we should get off the bus. I needed to cook a tall tale to save at least 1 person. Sadly, I could not pull that couple as well.
By this juncture, the young man looked even more ridiculed, yet out of respect of the elderly, he just had to brush it off. As he wanted to find another way to get home pronto, they encountered a patrolling police vehicle, and the old lady would be prompt to request to make a police report, much to the horror of a young companion. After they had done so, much to the reluctance and increasing frustration of the young man, who felt the police was too nice to pay attention to the naysaying from a delirious old lady. The police were gracious enough to send the pair home respectively, but little did he expect to receive a call from the police 2 days later. It seems like the bus they were on did not make it to the final stop at Xiangshan, and the next morning, the bus company would make a police report of their missing asset and the driver as well as the conductor. The family members of the middle-aged couple whom they had described in their accounts also made police report of them missing since that night. The young man was starting to feel creeped out and kept thinking to himself if the old lady was speaking the truth, but ultimately, what had happened to the bus? The mystery was uncovered another 2 days later when the carcass of the bus was located downhill of a ravine a good 80 kilometers away from Xiangshan, which was an impossible journey to do without refueling midway. 4 corpses were retrieved from the bus and were identified as the missing driver, the bus conductor, and the couple who boarded the bus with them. There was another unidentified corpse dressed in all white at the rear seat, and the mind-boggling part was that, through forensics, whoever the corpse was, he or she had passed on for many years, basically like a mummified corpse. When the bus company excavated the carcass of the bus, they thought it was natural for oil to leak from the punctured fuel tank. The team have a ghastly finding. Instead of oil leaking from the fuel tank, it was human blood. So many questions arose from that short urban legend. Who are the 3 apparitions that boarded the bus, and why did everyone manage to see them? Are they the Chinese version of the Grim Reaper? Did they take over the driver helm of the bus like Keanu Reeves in Speed? How did the bus manage to travel so far further from the original destination, running at limited fuel? Why was the petrol being replaced by human blood in the bus? Of course, a lot of websites and YouTube channels had been debunking this story. The most obvious was the lack of actual news article about the missing bus 375. So take it with a pinch of salt, but still it was a chilling tale. Next up, we have yet another urban legend, this time in Hong Kong, dated even further back in 1981. The Hong Kong Mass Transit Railway system began operation in 1979 and had been a useful mode of transportation for the people of Hong Kong on a daily basis. On 10 November 1981, a gruesome accident happened at the railway platform of Yau Ma Tai, back then still known as Waterloo Station. In the afternoon, just before the peak hour rush, a train starting its journey from Chater Station to Kwang Tung Station was closing into Waterloo. Just as the train was gliding into the platform of the station, a lady, donning a school uniform, could be seen jumping into the track. To the horror of the people on the platform, the passengers in the first carriage who witnessed the jump, and of course the driver himself, who saw the young girl flinging her body into the railway. This was during the era when there was no barricaded doors on the platform, and the jump led to a mass request for the driver to stop the train, which he instinctively put on the brake. However, travelling at that speed, it would be too late to put the entire train to a full halt without decapitating whoever was on the track. No scream was being heard, but the driver admitted he could feel the train stumbling over something on the track. After the train had come into a full stop, some concerned passengers jumped down the platform to look for the girl, while others sought help from the station staff. The driver was seen stunned in his cab for the longest time as the authority dispersed the crowd and the train line was disrupted for hours. As there was no signs of a track accident from the site, the train company had to lift up the train, and again, no indication of an accident, which left authorities baffled. When you cannot explain something with logic, people start speculating in the supernatural side of things. As there were so many witnesses who can vouch on seeing the mishap, beside the driver himself, some religious master claimed that it was a sort of mass possession when a powerful entity simulated a jump that left many people affected. Some have claimed that by naming the station Waterloo to signify the Waterloo battle between the British and the French, when many perished as an aftermath, experts felt the naming created a bad feng shui to the station, which could be why it was renamed as Yau Ma Tai eventually. Another part of this urban legend was that there was this female student had identified the person who jumped into the track as herself. So freaked out by the sight of a doppelganger, the student went home and developed a chronic illness leading to her demise 7 days later. People would claim this could be a premonition of death for this specific victim. In 2019, renowned Hong Kong online commentator Fong Hei Gong put out a post on his Facebook to solicit for some truth masking this 3 decades long mystery of the phantom platform jumper. He was surprised to get a response from a woman in her 50s, claiming that she was the jumper on the fateful day in 1981. The reader who responded stated that she was not a student, but was a 22-year-old who was suffering from depression, as there was no sufficient knowledge of treatment for mental illness like hers in those days. She had been haunted by a voice to ask her to end her life for as long as she could remember. She was legitimately waiting for the train that afternoon, and the voice inside her head had incessantly drove her up the proverbial wall, and she knew by then that she had to end it once and for all. Yet, at the point when she hurled herself onto the train track, she claimed she could feel a warm glow and could hear another voice, a more benevolent and loving one, telling her that there's still hope in life, and actually guided her towards a spot between the track and the platform, which prevented her from being run over by the train itself. During the commotion of the people screaming and the staff rushing towards the part of the track where the jump had happened, the reader managed to maneuver herself towards another part of the track and made her way up to safety. The lady strongly believed that it was divine intervention that saved her that day, and found solace in religion after that, and was living well ever since. While many people felt her claim to be incredulous and hard to justify, if it was the truth behind the incident, it would still be a relief. This urban legend with the newspaper reports provided stone-cold evidence, coupled with eyewitnesses' account, was not as flimsy as compared to Bus 375 from Beijing. We next move to my part of the world. I have heard accounts of cab drivers picking up creepy passengers who made requests to go to destination where the living would not go during unearthly hours. Below are 2 stories shared by Singaporean cab drivers about such hair-raising experiences. My name is Atik. In the year 2008, I've only driven taxi for merely 2 years. Even when I've driven during the unearthly hours when people usually sleep, those nocturnal animals who hailed my cab never really gave me too much of a scary ordeal. Until this fateful night, when I was preparing for my late night shift. I was washing my cab near my place at Boon Lay when I was approached by a young man in army fatigue. His hands were full with freshly prepared food packed from nearby hawker centre, obviously meant for his campmates.
Uncle, could you send it to my pen like Ama Ding Lim Chu Kang?
Any taxi driver in Singapore hearing the name of Lim Chu Kang in the middle of the night would be apprehensive to bring anybody there. Seeing the poor army boy so anxious to go back to camp before his curfew, I reluctantly obliged. Upon sending him there, he thanked me profusely after paying me, and I could see him running towards the guardhouse. On the way back down the creepy Lim Chu Kang road, mind you, this was before they illuminated the road, I drove past Tengah Air Base before realizing I was approaching the vast cemetery, which was the real reason why taxi drivers would steer clear from this place, be it day or night. As I unknowingly stepped on the accelerator to speed off from this place, I could see a man in his late 40s, and he was wearing the yellow robe, which instinctively reminded me of Lam Chi-ying in those Hong Kong Jiangshi movie, hailing my cab down. Naturally, I had to slow down, and when I was doing so, I can see him carrying a big stalk of a lotus flower, as well as a burning incense stick.
Brother, can you give me a ride?
He was behaving in a shifty manner while looking at his right when he asked me. As the night was still young for me, I told him I could drive him even though I was uneasy about him. He did not hear my reply the first time, so he asked again, this time a bit louder and sterner.
Can you give me a ride?
I just beckoned him to hop on and he acknowledged me. He then turned to his right and said,
Let's go.
I was absolutely stunned from what I had witnessed. Who was he commanding to hop onto my cab? Where would you like to go? I asked the Taoist priest.
Adam Road Cemetery.
What? He was leaving a cemetery to go to another one? Was he trying to chaperone something? A lot of scary thoughts started coming to my mind while I tried to pay attention to the road with the priest sitting in the front passenger seat. As I looked at the rearview mirror, I saw them. 2 human-like entities in white started forming at the rear passenger seat. Their faces were exceptionally pale, but otherwise they looked human-like.
Try to ignore them and focus on the road.
The priest calmly advised me. It was hard to ignore them. I honestly relayed that to the priest, as he could sense me shaking all over in fear.
Don't be scared. I have everything under control.
He told me reassuringly. He would wind down the window and put the lotus flower and lit up another incense stick outside as a form of a safeguard measure. When we were approaching Adam Road, It was a straight, dimly lit road towards the gates of the cemetery.
Slow down.
The priest instructed. In the back of my mind, I was like I could not wait to drop you and your goods off, and yet you are instructing me to drive slowly. It felt like an eternity driving into the Adam Road Cemetery vicinity, and soon the priest would break the uncomfortable silence.
No need to drive up to the gates. Just drop me down here.
When my cab had come to a stop, he told me not to leave. He needed to proceed with some rituals. As the priest opened the door from his side, I could audibly hear him uttering,
Okay, we are here. Come now.
At this point, I was incredibly curious about his goods, so I peeked at the rear passenger seat through the rearview mirror, and they were gone. In an instant, the pair would re-emerge behind the priest, as they followed him to a tree about 20 meters away, where he would embed the lotus flower and incense on the ground before he took out a few talismans and seemingly did some chanting before burning the talisman into a small brass bowl which he had filled with some water prior. He then beckoned me out of the vehicle, which I followed accordingly. He would continue to chant and sprinkle the blessed water on me, and meticulously sprinkling the water at all four corners of my taxi. He then handed me a $50 note for the fare, and while I tried to fish out the change, he just said,
Keep the change.
He also gave me a red packet, which he instructed me to keep for 3 days before spending the money. It contained 1680, which symbolizes the Chinese face of Ilu Fa, meaning on a path of prosperity. After I drove off, I was still feeling creeped out, but fortunately, nothing followed me home that night. I heeded the priest's call to spend the money from the red packet, using it to buy some lottery ticket, and guess what? I actually won a small sum, so the scary ride turned out to be good luck for me. About 7 years ago, I picked up a young lady from the entrance of Orchard Tower at around 11 PM one Thursday evening. For anyone who knew about Orchard Tower, calling it seedy is an understatement. I held my suspicion over this lady from the way she behaved and the way she spoke, and most importantly, the way she dressed. A body-hugging bright red dress with a matching high heels and handbag, and lipsticks and nail polish were blazing crimson as well.
Uncle, Lim you come please.
What? Is all cemetery there, miss? I was very apprehensive to take in this passenger.
Don't worry, my boyfriend and our friends are waiting for me there. We are planning to do a night film shoot at the cemetery.
From the ambient light of the building, I could verify that she was casting a shadow, so at least I could be sure that she was not a ghost. When we reached Lim Chu Kang Road, the lady made the following request.
Uncle, could you drop me in the path of the Chinese cemetery?
Cannot, I replied. I'm dropping you here in the main road. Just then, the young lady would call her boyfriend to come pick her up, and not before long, the boyfriend came out from the dark. He was topless, revealing a body adorned with tattoos, and he was followed by his friends, all with the same physical appearance. After the lady paid me and alighted, I was about to drive off, before the boyfriend would hail me down hastily.
Uncle, I wanted to go home. Can you send me home?
I was puzzled why he was leaving just as the girlfriend had arrived, but I was too tired to care, and these young people looked terribly hostile to me. By sheer luck, I managed to get a call-in job, and I vehemently rejected to serve this topless gangster type. Luckily, he did not hurt me or my cab. As I slowly departed the dark road, I could see the group of them returning to the main innards of the cemetery, where more young people could be seen gathering. I was wondering what were they doing. This might not be a scary ghost story, but it definitely left a deep scar in my memory. Alright, the second story wasn't truly a supernatural tale, but if you put yourself in the shoe of the cab driver, your imagination will surely run wild. The final story of the night comes from Japan, which chronicled a man's puzzling overnight bus journey from Kyoto to Tokyo. My name is Kyosuke, and I work in a publishing house located in Tokyo, while my hometown is in Kyoto. Therefore, traversing between the modern capital of Japan and the capital of the ancient time is a regular activity for me. Taking Shinkansen or bullet train for local people can be quite a costly expenditure. Therefore, I always opted to take overnight bus, which can take up to 8 hours to travel. The bus ride had always been hassle-free for me, and I always had quality sleep on the coaches. So one fine summer evening, I was summoned to return to Tokyo at the last minute, and I had to scour high and low for a ticket, but managed to get the elusive one from the open market. When I boarded the bus at around 10 PM at the bus station near the Hachiyo exit, I could sense I was the last one to board, as all the seats had the curtains been drawn, indicating all the passengers had taken their seats. Soon after I've settled down on my seat, I too drew up my curtains, put on my Bluetooth earbud, and getting comfortable for the ride. Even before the bus hit the highway, I had fallen into deep sleep. I was woken up by a gentle tap on my right shoulder. After graduating from high school, it had been a good 5 to 6 years when I would not be shaken up from my sleep, so this feeling was a bit foreign to me. I did not remember how long the tapping went on, as I ignored it and hoped that it would go away. But it was incessant and was determined to get my attention. Reluctantly, I told whoever waking me up that I was awake. The tapping would get increasingly aggressive, even before I had a chance to really sit up straight and see who the culprit was. As I shot up on my seat and scanned through the place, I could only see my drawn curtain and no sign of it being ruffled at all. And with the limited space enclosed by the curtain, any movement in and out of the space would be felt, or the sound of the Velcro tape could be heard, but everything was calm. I was freaked out and went to ask the backup driver, who was not sleeping, as he was going to take over the wheel in due time. He told me he was uncertain if anyone was awake at that time, and he had been sitting there beside the driver all this time. Slightly shaken, I went back to my seat and tried to compose myself to fall back to sleep, which I eventually did. The next moment when I opened my eyes, it was daybreak, and I could audibly hear the movements all around me as other passengers started to wake up. I began to overhear a conversation between two female friends just a few seats in front of me. Aside from trivial talks, like where to have breakfast when the bus reached Shinjuku, one of the ladies would say the following.
It's so weird last night. I kept feeling someone tapping on my shoulder when I was sleeping. And when I woke up, no one was there. I think it happened twice. I thought it was my imagination.
Her friend would reply.
Oh, so I got the same experience too.
Hearing that from the ladies, I was certain that there was someone playing a prank on the bus that night. I could not explain how he or she could be so fast and nimble after pulling the prank. I then stood up for a stretch, in preparation to alight when the bus was approaching the terminal at Shinjuku. As I sit back down, I felt like I was a patient who was under anesthesia, as I immediately went blank, but it was not a sleep state, as I was very conscious and was trying to open my eyes and get back my vision. And when I finally did, I was back on my seat with all my curtains closed. I pushed it aside and was horrified to see that it was still night and the bus was still on the highway towards Tokyo. I was feeling beyond incredulous. What was I experiencing? Was everything before this a dream? It certainly did not feel like a dream. I could feel my body trembling uncontrollably, and it was not due to the temperature in the bus, and I tried to breathe in and out as I felt I could go into a panic attack. Sitting on my seat, I was trying to think positive thoughts, and I was telling myself no way that I was going to fall back to sleep. I did not even move during the dedicated toilet break on the final stretch of the journey, just rooted on the seat, keeping my focus on my surroundings. The bus eventually reached Shinjuku bus terminal, which was when I precariously left my seat and alighted. Until this very day, I have no explanation of the time lapse I had experienced on this freaky bus ride, and who was the person who went around tapping on people's shoulder. Lucky for Kyosuke, he did not suffer any bodily harm, except for a lapse in memory. He mentioned that he needed to commute between the two cities on a regular basis. Did he went for the faster way of taking Shinkansen instead now? So here we are at the end of another episode of After Dark. Hope you all like the stories and urban legends I have shared today. Please share any creepy stories, be it supernatural or just unexplained and skin crawling, to us in this above email address. And let us know if we could share this with the audience in this channel. As always, please click a like if you appreciate my work, and subscribe to Lights Out Ghost Stories if you like ghost stories narration and chit-chat session from the likes of Joe and Kim, or hang out with the Out There podcast crew to talk about their monthly adventures, usually with some paranormal undertone. Thank you for joining us and see you guys next week. Good night, Lights Out family.